Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to the Reflective Millennial Podcast. I'm your host, Matt. And for today, we have our very first guest on the show, Ryan Mai. First off, Ryan, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for taking the time to join. And I'm ready to kick things off and have fun. What'd you say to that?
Absolutely, man. I'm ready. I've been waiting to get on this since you texted me the first time.
Bro, like you know what's crazy? So I'm not trying to be a bad influence to the people, but I was very drunk when I was texting you. Like I'm a productive drinker. Like when I drink, I can do things, And like I hit you up. I just hit a bunch of people up, but like you were first
Liquid
on the
courage.
list.
Liquid
Yeah,
courage,
you
man.
were first on the list, and cause like to be honest, when my sister, she also goes to UD. She's also practicing like she a study of medicine. So it's like I'm actually very intrigued by like people who study that stuff because I'll be honest with you, I feel like that's like a hard course to go through. Like how do you feel about what you study?
So, since you texted me about my college course and what it's like to go through the medical process in college, my college career was very, very different than what I envisioned, and a lot of people told me that that may be the case when I was in high school. They said,
Yeah.
don't always overextend your arm and say, "This is what I'm doing in my future," and I did not listen. I thought I would be going in, getting my degree, chasing after a medical degree, and then, the whole doctor stereotype Asian family.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
no. Yeah, we both relate heavily on that. I agree with you
yeah.
on that.
So what ended up happening was I went to UD as a neuroscience major because I thought the brain was fascinating. And I was like, you know what? That'd be a great area of study if I want to go to medical school. And
Yeah.
it's not. Um,
Really?
yeah, it's good if you want to specialize in neurology and you want to take that somewhere else in terms of research. But in terms of getting into medical school, it's actually not something you want to do. A lot of people go in as a biology major just because it covers a lot of the courses that you may need
Yeah,
in order to
that's
get
what
into
my
medical
sister
school.
was talking to us about. Like cause she had a hard time like trying to find a major because it was like you would take chemistry or something like that. But she basically what you said, biology like can cover the courses that like prerequisites. I'm assuming that you would need to like move on with your life.
Absolutely. I ended up switching from neurology into a medical diagnostics, which is UD's version of pre-med.
Yeah.
Um, I got through I got through most of the classes. The class that kicked me the hardest was Orgo 2. Organic Chemistry 2 was by far my hardest course I have ever taken. I won't lie, I didn't have any passion for the class, so it's part of
Oh,
the reason
yeah,
why.
that does make it harder. Yeah.
Uh, and then I ended up switching my major again to health and behavioral sciences,
Yeah.
which I did tell you the other day. Basically, what that degree covers is how do how do our personal health choices and life choices affect our health? How does our nutrition how does our nutrition and our nutritional choices affect our health? And it's basically all about your your choices throughout your entire life that lead to health benefits or health risk. So it's not quite the same as chasing after a doctor's degree, but I find it a lot more fulfilling, and I actually have a passion for this. And it was a big wake up call for me just because I thought I'm going to become a doctor, and now
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore.
So cool question. How do your parents like feel about you making that decision? Because I know from mine, my dad for whatever reason I was just intrigued by it. Like, but I had like no interest in whatsoever. Right? How do your parents feel about you changing your majors from something that's very much so you can get into a surgical field with that to now working with something that's studied behind like health, um, nutritional value. Like how did your parents react when you changed direction?
Thankfully, my parents are very, very supportive of my choices. They may not always agree with my choices, but they're very supportive, and they they always told me, don't chase after the money, chase after what you love doing. The money will follow.
Yeah.
Um, which I'm very blessed to have around in my life, just supportive parents like that. And it's really funny when you ask me about college because I actually stopped college for a semester, currently on a break right now. I
Oh,
signed,
really?
yeah, I signed my contract with the National Army National Guard in March.
What, bro?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, big changes.
holy dang, bro! I could have, if I knew you were interested, I could have just referred you and got myself a bonus.
I know, right?
Oh, that's crazy. Hey, congrats, by the way. Did you already enlisted or did you
I
take the oath
signed
of
my
enlistment already?
I already did my oath of enlistment. I went to my first drill weekend in March, and actually, no, beginning of April, I did my first drill weekend, and it was brutal. I did
You
not
were you over
realize
at Bethany Beach?
I was at Bethany Beach.
Okay, yeah. It's
I,
weird. I had my last drill was in March.
oh, so I did not realize how out of shape I was until I got there
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. I'm out of shape too. I agree with you.
because so I'm sure you've seen myself on Instagram,
Yeah,
Snapchat, like
you're a
I
huge dude. Like even in person, I was like, yo, you're like the Asian Hulk. I feel like
I put
you're
on some
bulky
weight
as
since high
hell.
school, man. I put on some weight since high school. I think I was 140 in high school, skinny at 5'8", 5'9", and now I'm
Yeah,
almost 200 pounds, 5'8", 5'9". At one point I was 210 at the peak of my bulk. Now I'm back to 190.
that's good. That's
Anyways,
good.
push-ups I had no problem with. Everything else I had no problem with. The running killed me. I did not
I
realize.
feel like honestly, the running kills everybody. Like for me, like people think I can run well. Like here's the thing, I can run fast, but I can't run long distance. Like every single time we've had the ACT or even the PT test back in high school, bro, like my lungs feel like they're in flames. Like I can't handle running, you know?
Absolutely. So if you don't mind me asking, what job or career are you going for in the National Guard or Army? Are you in the Army National Guard or just Army?
I am in the Army
Okay.
National Guard. Actually, fun fact, I'm actually about to hit my first year of enlistment this coming July, which is crazy because I have a couple Marine friends and I find it amusing how like competitive the other branches are because like how Major said, oh, what Marine state or Army stands for, ain't ready for Marines, right? So I have quite a few friends, and I met a Marine recently. They're so cool, honestly. Like they're not like about shoving people, like like, oh, you ain't shit. You're in the army. That shit's easy. Like they're very actually they're very proud of like whenever they meet soldiers, because let's be real, the military overall isn't an easy thing to do, let alone going to basic training. So it's like I feel like one thing that we can relate to with other branches is like we just feel pride that you were in the military in the first place.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but so before, when I was in the process of enlisting, right, I had a recruiter, and I told her, oh, well, I want to do IT, and what I had in mind in the future was like IT people are very smart and you make a lot of money, and obviously I'm a greedy bastard, so I tried to go that route, took the ASVAB, and just backpedaling a little bit, I'll be honest, I'm not the best test taker. I said this previously in another podcast how it took me like 3 tries just to get the bare minimum on the ASVAB, and it's like when I was in basic and I told them like my score, they're like, there's no way you got a score that low, and I was like, that's the score I needed. Like I was kind of like pressed about it, but I had to put my
Yeah,
mind like, hey, this is what I need just to get in, and I'm happy I got in.
absolutely.
Yeah. But to answer your question, I'm a 91 Delta, so that's a power generator specialist. So basically, I'm responsible for making sure there's a grid of power going throughout a base, and we're responsible for essentially maintaining those generators.
Oh my goodness. So you are the people that I've seen in the National Guard commercials. I remember during COVID, like they would have the National Guard people working on the generators in
Yeah,
different
yeah.
sites. Oh, that's so funny. Anyways, um, I was also thinking about chasing the money when I took my ASVAB, I did not realize how long the test would actually take. It took 4 hours and
4
175.
hours.
Yes, it was when I took it. It was 4 hours, and they had after the 4 hours, they had 175 psychology tests.
Yeah, that's like I think they did that to like see it's like a personality test, I believe. It's like would you
Correct.
rather da 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 like whatever
Yep.
the case may be.
I was losing my mind taking all those exams. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to sit through and do all of this. This is absolutely nuts to me. At the end of the day, my recruiter told me that basically any job I wanted, I qualified for. And he was like, this one right here, satellite tech, you can get a 20 grand sign-on bonus. And I really wanted it because I really wanted a motorcycle, but I was trying
Oh
to be
yeah, yeah, no,
smart.
I feel yeah. Oh my gosh, dude.
I want to be smart. And I went with 68 whiskey, which is a combat medic, just because I do
You
still
went
want to
with
pursue
60 whiskey?
68 whiskey. Yes,
Oh my gosh, dude.
I
You're doing that within the National Guard, right?
correct.
Okay, wow. Like I've met 168. Actually, I've met one infantryman and 168 whiskey. It's funny because so I bought when I came back from AIT on holiday block leave. One of the very first things, and honestly, like, I'm not even mad at myself for doing this, but I was like, you know what? I kind of want to get a gun, So
Oh
I
my
bought
good
I
lord.
went to Cabela's, and the guy was pretty cool, mind you. This was a very impulsive decision. I was not prepared. Like, first off, to the people, to the audience, whenever you're gonna make a decision so serious, consult with yourself first. Because honestly, I did not do anything like that. I just went in, said, okay, I'm looking for a weapon. No, never. I only used the M4 at basic. Knew nothing about pistols or anything like that. So it was like one of the worst at the time. One of the worst like things I could say I've done because even my parents like they were shocked when I bought a pistol. But the guy who was selling to me, right? He was a 68 whiskey, and his boss was an infantryman. And here's the fun part:
Oh my
all
goodness.
three of us went to Benning.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
That is
it
hilarious.
was we were just on a roll like with our conversation. Like they told me some crazy stories. It was very fun listening to them because it's like it really is an adventure, honestly. Like it was hard, but I don't regret going to basic.
Awesome. Uh,
Yeah, but with the you know how the bonus thing works, right?
you get a percentage up front, and then after you finish all your training, you get the you get the rest of the percentages.
Yeah, like they break it down because like just like and it makes sense because just like any regular 18-year-old, okay, I got a $20,000, $25,000 bonus. Let me get a
Exactly.
challenger. Like
Exactly.
that's part of the reason why they break it down for them because it's like oh you actually have to fulfill your contract now. You can't just go out, because I personally suspect that a lot of people would like get the money, do maybe 1 to 2 years, and then just get booted out, and they have the money. So they make it easier by breaking it down for them.
I definitely did consider the sign-on bonus, and I was like, wow, 20 grand, that's 20 grand I could just have right there that they're gonna pay me. But in all honesty, I had to sit back and think about what I wanted for my future, and the 20 grand
Yeah,
would be great right now. However, I do want to continue to pursue medicine in my future, so I felt like it'd be smart to keep myself fresh with my anatomy, physiology, all the body processes, just because as much as the 20 grand would help, I don't want to sit through classes I've already taken and have like 50% of it already down and have to relive all that nightmarish stuff.
yeah, no, I get that. Definitely understand the stress, and not even just with in the medical field. Like when so I actually switched majors too, and I'm a college dropout, but originally I don't know how many people had gone through this, like specifically coming from our school. So for 4 years, right, all we knew was Marine Corps, ROTC. That's all we knew. Well, for me, that's all I knew. So when it came time for college, I had no idea what I wanted to do, because I was the one thing I was very passionate about was drill. I loved drill team, flipping rifles, and not even just like the activity of it, but it's like the culture is like what I genuinely fell in love with. So when I was talking to our counselor, Miss Miller, right?
Yep.
I was doing like we were at it for like a good few weeks trying to find my college, my major, you know. But then the issue was like I was a knucklehead in high school. I can admit that, because I didn't study. I was not the best with my grades, especially. And the only class that I can correlate myself with that I actually enjoyed was engineering. So I applied for Deltech, got into engineering, and it really was all fine because I knew that I had mechanical skills. I used common sense. But then the greatest issue that I had with engineering was I am not good at math, right? So I took the test, right, for my classes. I did, I was able to take college English, easiest class ever. But then when it came to college algebra, I didn't even qualify for college algebra. Like that's how like remedial of a math class I needed, you know. And after a while, even the remedial class was hard for me. So I ended up changing majors. I was like, you know what? I want to work something with YouTube because you've seen like my videos and how I edit them and stuff. And
I have.
I found a passion within that. So
Yeah.
then that happened, and then it was about to be, so I was supposed to graduate within last year, I think it was. So my academic counselor in college, he basically set me up with the classes I needed, and I was basically supposed to be done for 2023, right?
Yeah.
I was at work when this happened, so I had to be within my school system at like 10 a.m. or something like that, 10:30, right? And I was talking to my manager like, hey, so I'm gonna be on my phone because I need to register for these classes, right? And so I hop on my phone, I'm logging in, but the internet was so slow. It took 10 minutes for me to get in. And then by the time I got in, the session was closed. I was like, wait, I
Oh
can't add these
my
classes?
gosh.
Yo, like I was so distraught when I found out. I was like, I'm not graduating. And I was like, what the hell am I gonna do? Like I was upset with myself. And the first thing I thought of was like, I'm gonna drop out. Because the thing is, I don't want to wait a whole nother year, like literally an entire year of just, to wait to graduate. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna enlist and set that sail.
And how did you feel once you enlisted?
So I spoke to this about my viewers, the very first episode. I'll keep it a buck with you. Very much so. Like before my career even started, I hated it because basic teaches you one thing. Well, one, fuck your feelings. All right. Two, you do as you're told, right? And I had to understand because a lot of people we're not very logical, and that truthfully we are not very logical because if we I mean the internet, you can see it all the time. Everyone rationalizes their decisions with emotion, right? But what we forget is emotions are very like temporary. You could be mad for 10 minutes, and only within those 10 minutes you will be mad, right? Afterwards you're cooled off, you know because let's say anger is like a car engine. Yes, it could be running, but it dies after a while of it continually running, you know? So within basic, I had to do a lot of things I did not feel like doing. We got smoked for hours. We could be completely dead exhausted, but we're not done until drill sergeant says we're done, right? So it's kind of like that. It doesn't matter how you feel, you got to do what you got to do. And I just implement that now into my life. And honestly, it benefits me a lot because there's times when I don't want to make a video. There's times when like, uh, I don't, I have to do what I got to do. I may not feel like doing it, but I still got to do it, you know? But
Absolutely.
in regards to how I feel, honestly, I love it. I've had a lot of fun, met some great people. My roommate, I still talk to my roommate from AIT. He graduated airborne, so he has his wings now, which is honestly, Quinn, if you're watching this, congrats, brother. Very proud of you. I wish I could do what you did. How about you? How are you feeling overall about signing with the army?
I will not lie to you. I am nervous as my date approaches to leave.
It,
However,
yeah, yeah.
I know I have some time before that date is here, so as of right now, I'm just working on myself, increasing the amount of cardio and increasing the
Yeah,
amount of
yeah,
endurance
you're gonna
I
do a whole
have.
lot of running.
So I'm trying to increase my cardio, my endurance. I'm trying to cut weight a little bit. I do know that my portions will be smaller in basic. So I feel like, well, I know I'll end up losing weight just because I am 5'9",
Yeah,
190, which is technically Army standard says I'm overweight. They don't account for the muscle besides taping. So they
yeah,
don't care.
yeah.
My meals are going to be small. I'm going to have to live with it, suck it up. But I've been just trying to prepare myself and do more running, do a lot of endurance exercises. And recently, well, I want to say about a month ago, I started journaling, which has helped me a lot.
Oh my gosh, journaling, I'll be real, it's like it's it's my most calmest form of therapy. Like, cause I had a lot going like before basic, I just had a lot going on. And even during basic, I was journaling like hell because I'll be real, there is so much that you'll be doing that and a lot of stupid things happen. So it's a great way to relieve stress. And honestly, for me, it makes it feel like I'm telling a story, but in a sense, like, oh, I went through this, I went through that, and you know, I love it to death, honestly.
Uh, so journaling, I didn't realize, like you said, it's a very peaceful therapy.
It's extremely
Um,
therapeutic. Yeah,
beforehand, when I was upset, I used to just go for a drive or I would go to the gym. But then that became a little too much for me just because if I was real angry and I was going for a drive, it wasn't the best drive.
yeah.
And
Cars are
um
just making you mad on the road, and they're not even
yeah,
doing anything.
I know. It's just like speed limit. What's that?
Hey,
Um
that's
or
not
if
cool
I
in
go
here.
to the gym, I would overexert myself, and then the next couple of days, I'd be so dead and trying to recuperate. And I just felt like I definitely needed to find another outlet for my emotions, the way I was feeling. Um, so I started journaling. I told myself, you know what, I'm gonna write down how I feel, what I did that day, and we'll just reflect. And if I'm being completely honest, that reflection helps me every single day because at the end of the day, I tell myself, I'm like, all right, what did we do today? What what was good? What was bad? Everything pours out on the page, and we leave it at that. I don't take it to
Yeah,
bed. I don't take it into the next morning. It's all on the paper. It's where it needs to be. It's not with me anymore. So, um, anyone who's listening and you don't journal, I would highly recommend journaling because it does give you an outlet to just express how you feel. It feels like you're talking to another person and they just open ears. Even though there's no one there, you just feel like you're heard or seen just because everything you feel, everything you want to say, it's just poured out on the page.
yeah, I completely agree with you. And the thing, so when I used to journal, right, I, I had like, I was like in and out of things with people. Like I was like in that player mindset at the time, but truthfully, the reason why I got into so many different relationships was because I was trying to fill a void within myself. You know, and mind you, I can understand my thought process completely because of journaling. Because I can read it, I'll look back, and I'll completely understand why I did certain things, why certain things came to happen, and all in all, whenever you journal, you understand yourself a whole lot more. Because the thing is, whenever we're going through a simple thought process, it's simple because we're having thought after thought, like it's in a line. But then the issue is you have 10 different thoughts right after that. So, in a sense, you're like not understanding yourself because mentally, you can't organize your thoughts. You're just going to keep having more. So, like how you said, whenever you have it journal down, you visualize it, you can actually see it. It allows you to understand yourself more. It's like when a teacher's giving you a lesson, you know, you break it down with notes and you understand the lesson better because you broke it down. So
Absolutely.
yeah, journaling definitely gives a better reflection in life. Let and number one, it helps you learn your lessons. I can say that for myself.
Uh, so thankfully, have you been consistent with your journal?
Actually, no, I what do I do that's therapy? Okay, like not unhealthily, but like my favorite way to unwind is with alcohol. I do I do like to
Oh
drink.
my Lord.
Yeah, but I'm
I
actually
am
no. You know what's crazy? I'm not as crazy of a drinker as I was like when I came back home, because the thing what like alcohol is not the healthiest outlet. I'll be real about that. So it's because I used to get like shit faced, you know, but it got to a point where like it I would down dude it was so unhealthy. Like I would finish a bottle of Pink Whitney within 2 days, and that's 30 proof, right? So that's like 10 away from Casamigos, right? I think Casamigos is like 40 to 50 proof. It's very high, and I was downing like some spicy food. Like I like eating spicy snacks while I'm just relaxing, right? The Pink Whitney, oh my gosh, sometimes liquor sneaks up on me. Like I'll be fine, I'll be buzzed, and I'll be shit faced. So I would be like in the bathroom throwing up, and like I told myself, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So instead of me just downing alcohol, continue to like enhance the buzz, I just wait until like I'm at a comfortable buzz, and then I just let it sit there, you know. So no, I've not been journaling. I need to get back to it because I know with the podcast and like other creative works I'm doing, it does add a level of stress that like at times feels like very overwhelming.
absolutely, absolutely. So in terms of you winding down and just being productive, I know you said that when you drink you're productive or more
Yeah,
productive.
yeah.
I'm actually the opposite. I am a super lightweight. For my 21st birthday, I had 3 shots. That's it, and I passed out for the rest of the party. Um, but moving on. In terms of productivity and college in the National Guard, I know you asked me to talk about my experiences with college, what I'm doing with my
Yeah.
life after
Oh,
high
actually,
school.
I was wondering if we could backpedal a little bit. Like I
Sure,
had this list down, so I'll talk. So,
sure, sure.
so you and I both went to First State Military Academy. You and I were both cadre, but you know, outranked me pretty early on. You know, speedy go private. I kind of wanted to ask, what was it like for you being a cadre at First State Military Academy? You know, taking charge of the day and just putting forth your leadership efforts. Like, how did that go for you? What was it like? What did you feel?
It was very nerve-wracking. I definitely didn't have the ability that other people had to just not demand authority, but they just had a aura with them where when they stood up, they spoke, people would look at them and listen. They just
Yeah,
had that with them, and their voice, the boom in their voice they just had it naturally. I didn't have that, so it was very nerve-wracking for me when I first started to get into that, just because growing up I was always the very quiet, very shy. I sit in the front to learn, but in terms of being picked out or called on, I was very like, if you call on me, I'll say it or I'll do it, but I won't volunteer myself to do that. And as it progressed, I slowly started to develop those social skills to not demand authority, but
yeah,
just to have that authority when I spoke. Like, this is what we're gonna get done. Here's how we're gonna get it done. Any questions? Things like that.
yeah.
Definitely a skill that I am really appreciative about having, just because now it developed into working outside of high school. Now I work in a pharmacy, and I was never given a leadership role in the pharmacy that I work at. However, when I know that I need to step up, I have no problem doing it. And a lot of people, they ask me, there's some people who are older than me that ask me, it's like, aren't you nervous? Don't you get like nervous to talk to people? Aren't you
Yeah,
afraid? And I feel like once you develop those skills to talk to people and communicate what you want to communicate is very, very beneficial to what you're trying to achieve, and it helps people around you achieve what they want to achieve and what you want to achieve. So at the end of the day, I feel like it's just a good skill to have.
yeah. It's a fantastic skill to have. Honestly, I heavily agree with you about like taking charge isn't something that's easy to do, and I'll be real, it's not meant to be easy. And if it was, then like I'll be on we'd be having a whole class on like issues of authority and whatnot. Because I know for me, I like I said, I was a knucklehead in high school, but the way I did it was like instead of like commanding an entire battalion, because I know at where I'm at and with my mentality, I wouldn't have the ability to do that. However, um, when it came to when the you remember when we had to train the new cadets coming in for the summer, right?
Yes.
So that was actually my very first taste of like leadership because I had rank, but I wasn't in command whatsoever. But when it came to the classes and when it came to like influencing them, because do you remember Siegel?
Siegel sounds
Bradford
familiar.
Siegel.
I'm not 100%.
So he's the one that like like I'm not gonna say supposedly, but he's the one that had a seizure in the hallway and like that's why we got let out early.
I was unaware of that.
Okay, well, Siegel, if you're watching this, I'm not trying to put your business out. Like, I just came to prove a point. But essentially, right? Um, I had that leadership to teach, right? And we're supposed to like, as the Lampa learning, pour values onto the next generation, right? And still knucklehead, but it's in a sense where like I wasn't commanding, but I was giving simple tasks to other cadets. Ruiz, I was telling him to do one small thing. He did it. Tell this person to do that. It's in a sense where I wasn't telling them, I was giving them a role, you know. And
Absolutely.
I was watching a clip of a Jocko Willink, I think yeah, he Navy SEAL specialist, right? He made a point about how leadership isn't commanding people to do a certain task. It's giving a role to people to make them leaders, and I think that's like a genuine that kind of I'll just the confusion about like how a person is supposed to be when he leads people because people are like, oh, you just tell them what to do, they do it. No, you give them a role, and they they fill that role, right?
Absolutely.
So I for one was like I liked being in like being a leader, but it was hard because like you like I was pretty shy. My fear was doing the wrong thing. Well, not maybe not doing the wrong thing, but having a role and not doing it correctly. Because I was like, oh my gosh, Master is gonna yell at me because I didn't do this right, and like that was that was terrifying.
Absolutely.
Um, but with you being a cadre, what was the standard that you had to uphold within your within leadership?
So the cadre that I had to uphold, that is a good question. So fortunately and unfortunately, I was of higher rank. So um
You were
I
an officer, right? You were an
I was
officer.
I was an officer at the time. Um I myself and a group of my friends, we were officers, and a lot of people looked at us and thought that we were just lazy because we would always sit in a room and do whatever we wanted. That's what people thought. But
Yeah.
realistically, in the room, we were sitting down with the colonel, we were sitting down with Master Sergeant Major, all of our Marine instructors, we were sitting down with them saying, this is our game plan, this is what we're going to do. We had to call the National Guard. We had to set up the food that people ate during the event, during our little camp, introduction camp. We had to set up the workout plans. We had to pick out who we thought fit what role. So people thought that we were just sitting in there, having a good time while everyone else was outside running around doing XYZ.
Yeah.
But the only reason why they're running around doing XYZ is because we made a plan for them to do that. And
Yeah.
as much as they got in trouble and they had to do workouts and everything, when things went wrong, we got yelled at behind the scenes and no one knew. And we just had to suck it up and deal with it. And at one point, we were really bad at communicating our plan or what we wanted to do. We just kept using walkie talkies over and over again. And actually, Master Sergeant Bird, he took the walkie talkies from us for a day or 2 days, actually. And we had to actually be outside and run across the campus back and forth, communicating to each
Yeah.
other what
Yeah.
we're
I think
going
I
to do.
remember something like that.
And it was brutal. Like, we did not realize how much we were taking the radios for granted until it
Yeah.
was gone. Um, so I feel like a good lesson that I got out of that was that as much as I may be struggling, I guarantee there's someone else out there behind the scenes that I don't see that is struggling just as much as me or more, and they just have to hold it to themselves because they can't let their subordinates know, holy shit, our plan's going down and we
Yeah,
need to adjust accordingly. That's just something that I feel everyone should keep in mind, that we're not the only ones that are suffering or going through things. Not to take away from anyone else's suffering, but I feel like it's just good to remember that there are other people suffering as well, and we should keep an arm extended out, try to help those around us, and make sure we're all doing good.
yeah. Personally, for me, it's weird because like I was part of the cadre, but like I didn't see myself at like you guys though. Like still cadet staff sergeant at the time, still had like some authority, but it's more in a sense of like while you guys are playing it out, like under you, we took our own set of action, still planned out, but I also feel like it's a lot harder work because it's like whenever we had to do like a presentation in order to execute, right? We had to show it in front of Colonel. We had to show it in front of the Marine instructors, right? I We were all very much so amateurish, like it's our first run at the game. We don't know the game yet, and
Absolutely.
so, it entails a lot of like knowing how to properly communicate, how to properly execute. And mind you, we lacked a lot of those things because not that we didn't have the resources that you guys had, we just didn't have the experiences that you guys built upon yourselves. You know,
Absolutely. Um,
and I I'll be honest, I wasn't very fond of high school.
I wasn't fond of high school until like my sophomore year. A lot of people thought that I was, oh my goodness, so gung ho about high school and I love what I do. No, I was arguing with my parents my freshman year, just saying, what did I ever do wrong? Why are you sending me here? And then
Yeah, I had that same conversation.
my dad actually sat me down and said, why don't you just go through the first year and actually put effort in and see how you feel by the end of the year? He told me that even if I have to do things like I love it, and then if I don't actually love what I'm doing, sometimes you got to suck it up and do it anyways.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you might end up finding out that you do love what you do. And that's what I found out by the end of my freshman year. I was like, you know what? This isn't too bad. And in terms of presentations and the experience with giving presentations or the knowledge to do that, again, I feel like that's a skill that I just developed in high school, and a lot of us ended up developing, which is great because now I have no problem with public speaking, going out
Oh
there
yeah, yeah. I could like
and talking
with
to random
that
people.
with the practice of like having to present something because there's no way to execute something without having the idea, and even then you have to learn how to present the idea in the first place, and then they have to justify whether it's a good idea or not.
Absolutely. Um, I feel like in terms of presenting, the more you do it, well, any skill actually, the more you do it, the better you get.
Absolutely.
There's no like cheat. There's no how do I do a 5 minute let me watch a 5 minute YouTube video and I'll just become perfect at this. It's not one of those videos from YouTube that you saw in like early 2000s, how to get abs in 5 minutes. You know
No,
what
I'm
I'm
not gonna
talking
lie. I
about.
still sometimes I do still think that way. Like, oh, I'll watch one video and I already know how to do it. Like,
Exactly.
nah, that I
It's
still
a
do
bad
that.
habit. It's a bad habit. I won't lie to you. But we just gotta keep doing what we're doing, keep pushing, and eventually the more you do it, the better you get. There's no like
Yeah.
other way to
I'm
put
not
it.
gonna lie. I think my
It's
worst
like
year was my senior year. Like,
I don't know if
man,
you know this guy named
I
Rich
still
Piana.
reminisce about it.
I
I
forget how to
fucking
pronounce
hated
his
senior
last
year
name,
so much.
but
Like, because I had
he
I
said
had
a
so much
quote
going on at the
that
time. Like, I
resonated
had
with
a
me.
very
He
big
said,
downfall
"The
upon
more you
myself,
put in,
and
the
then
more you
and
get
even
out."
then, it's like I saw a lot of
And
people's
I
true
feel
colors,
like
and like,
that's
dude,
just
that just
something
drove a knife into my heart.
to apply to all things that you do in your life. The more you put in, the more you get out. There's no
Oh,
no way around it.
Oh, but you didn't hear the things I just said, did you?
No.
Oh no, dang, my thing cut out. But I was saying like my worst year was probably senior year because I had a bad downfall.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't remember if you remember that time when me and that one girl were dating, and then like shit just went downhill, and then and then after that happened, I saw a lot of people's true colors and like just the way they were. It drove a knife to my heart like that. It was hard for me to take in, but that just taught me that was life. That was life doing its thing, you know.
absolutely. Um, After high school, I realized that a lot of my friends, actually, no, I don't want to say that a lot of my friends were not friends. What I want to say is that I didn't realize how small my friend circle actually was until I took a step back and said, "Oh wow, these people that I talk to regularly, it's such a small amount, but I didn't really care just because I find value. Like I much rather have a high value friend than a bunch of low value
Yeah,
friends
quality over
who aren't
quantity.
gonna, yeah, quality over quantity.
Yeah, because
Perfectly.
a lot of times like pe I've had I find it so surprising, but like I have times when people like not glorify, but like they see my life, they see what I do. They're like, "Oh, you do this, you do that. You have so many friends." No, I just know a lot of people. I don't know, like I don't like I can equate myself with people, but I know who I know. I don't know everybody. I can talk to everybody, but that doesn't mean I know everybody.
Exactly.
And it's like the things I do, podcast, video editing, photography, like yes, these are all amazing things that I do. But you have like people don't understand like how hard it is to actually execute these things. Like this it's amazing, but it's not easy, so I don't understand how people see that. Like the way I saw you, exactly what you said. I thought you were very gung ho. Oh, he's a smart kid. He's a go getter. The instructors love him, but like in reality, you're having just as much as a hard time as everyone within that same space you're in.
Absolutely. Um, I just try to keep a steady head on myself, make sure I remember like I'm not the only person going through stuff. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
everybody has their own set of problems. Like that's like whenever I look at someone and think their life's amazing, I also think to myself, I was like, I wonder what they could be going through though. And it levels me out because there are times when I see people doing better than me, but understanding, yeah, they're doing better, but they're probably like have just as many, maybe twice as many problems than I do. Everything that everything that's all has an opportunity also comes with a cost.
absolutely. I feel like I forget where I heard this quote, but hard times create strong people.
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
got to go through something to grow. Even if we put ourselves in that situation or not, we got to go through something to get better, get stronger, whatever the case may be. Get smarter, you got to study. When we get stronger, you got to put in that work. When we get bigger, eat.
Yeah. I also remember this quote. God threw you into the ocean not because for you to drown, but because He knows your enemies can't swim. And I think about that a lot of times when like I'm comparing my life now to my life then. I had it so much easier then.
Yeah, I did not realize how much I would enjoy being a kid until I started, oh, I gotta work, I gotta budget, I gotta save, I gotta pay for this, pay for that. I'm like, oh man, whew, being a kid was so
Nah,
easy.
I'll keep it real with you in terms of basic training. So I don't know if you know this, but you don't have your phone, you don't have lots. You don't even have a book. The only book you can have is the Bible or like the Quran. You only have religious literature. That's the only thing you can read, right?
Really?
Oh, yep, yep. I had like three different Bibles in basic, dude. But what one thing I can say is basic training will teach you like it taught me definitely how much I took for granted. Because you have nothing to yourself. All you have is a watch, your religious literature, and a notepad, right? That's all you have to yourself. So it teaches you like how much less you actually need to live and how much you actually took for granted. It's so crazy. Like I used to I wrote letters for like every day for like 3 weeks to my mom explaining like what I was feeling and what I was thinking. You don't realize you take money for granted, the great times, even the times where it was so hard, you will appreciate those. I swear to you can even write me and tell me I'm right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's tough, but it's such a great feeling knowing like you bared the hard times and made your life. Because basic, I have such greater habits not from basic. I'll be real about that. But actually, here's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. How did being a cadre at FSMA reflect on your own life currently? Like, what lessons did you take from being a cadre that you've applied right now?
Public speaking, by far. Public speaking and attention to detail. Uh, the the slideshows and all the presentations that you guys had the staff had to watch or sit through, that the upper cadre had to make. Whenever we made them, we spent, I want to say, beginning of March all the way up to end of June. That's how long we spent on the one presentation for you guys to follow.
Wow.
So attention to detail and public speaking, where we had to be knowledgeable, make sure you know what you're talking about, make sure that you've looked over what you're talking about. Even if you feel like you already looked over it, make sure that everything is perfect or close to perfect. That's what we're shooting for. You're never going to be 100% perfect, but you're shooting for that, and you'll get as close as you can. And then you'll know what you're talking about. You'll give people the correct information. And I feel like that's the number one thing I took away: attention to detail and public speaking. Now I'm very strict about it, and some people aren't too fond of it, but we live and learn.
Indeed. I remember Davis. You remember Levi Davis?
Yes, sir.
So I was in marksmanship and he came to visit. He was coming from Hood College, and I asked him, like, this was a pretty good question in my opinion, but I had asked him, like, what about first date did you take away that you've applied in your daily life? And he made a very valid point. So in college, I'm not sure if this worked for you, but whenever you had a project where you had to work with a partner, a classmate of some sort, or like even in a group?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the one lesson he learned was that because you do public speaking presentations, you're working with other people, right? He made a point about how there's actually people in university, right? They may not have gone to first date or any military academy, right? They don't know how to cooperate, work with, or even communicate with people, and that's one thing that like makes a project go well or go wrong. So do you think that like first date helped you with your communication skills as well in regards to working with other people and cooperating with them?
I definitely feel like first date helped me communicate with people better during group projects. However, I will say, just because my skills to communicate with people were developed, it doesn't mean that their skills were developed to work with other people. And it took me a long time to realize that I'm putting in all this effort and they just don't seem to care. And that's something that isn't fair, but you got to suck it up
No,
and live
not
with
at
it.
all.
But I definitely feel like the skills to work with other people definitely were developed or started to develop from first day, because in leadership class we talked about the 3 forms of leadership: authoritarian, and like 2
Yeah.
other.
Oh, I remember
I
that.
forget
Oh
I
my
forget
God.
what they're called. I can't remember the
Nostalgia
name
just
of
hit
them.
me.
Yeah. So um I realized that there are different ways to approach different people. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you should just keep an open mind on how you're working with other people. And you got to remember, you're not in charge of anyone. You're not, especially in college, unless you're given that authority by someone up higher. You're not in charge
Yeah,
of anyone. You're no one's parent. You have to sit there and you have to figure out what works. Not one way works for everyone.
absolutely. So just speaking on when you studied in college, so what exactly does health behavior and nutrition science entail? Like, what is studied upon it? What does the science mean?
So the dumbest down version of it that I like to use, just because my professor, she asked us, "What do you guys think this major is about?" And 90% of us sat there looking dumbfounded, like, "Oh my goodness, we signed up for this major and we don't even know exactly what it entails." Basically, what it entails is we're studying the habits and choices that people make that affect their health. So whether you smoke, whether you diet, whether, and what kind of diet. Are you keto? Are you pescatarian, vegetarian, lacto-ovo? There's a bunch of different diets that you can choose. Or, do you run? Are you physically active? Do you walk? There's different workouts you can do to keep your cardiovascular health up. Just all the health choices that you make, all the life choices that you make, how does it affect your health? And how can it affect other people? And that could be private health, or it could be public health. So I can work one-on-one with a patient and say, "Hey, this is what I'm noticing you're doing. Maybe we shouldn't do this, or maybe we shouldn't do that." And then public health is going out there making those big commercials that everyone knows, but people still don't follow. Like, "Hey, vaping and smoking is not good for you," and people still do it. But that means we have to continue to talk to people like, "Hey, maybe there are alternatives to vaping or smoking. Maybe you can do something else. Maybe, do you want to quit? Here are your resources."
So in a sense, it's the major is basically in a way, the way you explained it, it's like a lifestyle science. Like, what does the person do? What are the processes, and how do these create the outcomes? Something like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm actually, I read it. I was reading an article. Well, I haven't memorized the article, but there's actually I have some good questions I have to ask you. So, for one, what was the reason that you chose to study this major, and like why not other majors? Like, why specifically this science?
I realized that I really enjoy nutrition, and
Okay.
if I'm being honest with you, nutrition, I believe it is a major itself, and I can focus solely on nutrition. However, I don't feel like nutritionists or dietitians really are valued as much as some of the other therapists or health scientists in all fields. I don't feel like they're appreciated as much, and unfortunately, they're underpaid. So,
Really?
as much as I like that field, I feel like it's not a valued job, and they don't get paid enough for me to focus only on that. So then I started doing a little bit of digging, and I was like, I wonder what's similar to it that I can broaden my horizon, get a better job, do whatever. I found health behavioral sciences, which you can bring into physical therapy, which at the time of me selecting majors, this is a real meathead move that I did. I was like, I love going to the gym, and they're focusing on how to better your muscles, how to better your bones. And that's the dumbed down version of why I picked that major. And then I started taking classes for it, and I realized there are so many more options that I can do besides, I'll just help people get better at the gym. That's just a trainer. I actually took a class where it's physical activity with children who have disabilities.
Okay.
So that is one of the classes that really helped open my eyes to all the choices I have. I didn't realize that I could actually help kids who are ages 5 all the way up until 21, which there are different programs that the state offers where I believe up to 21 you're given physical activity by a trainer, and you're afforded so many different things. But once you're past 21, for whatever reason, the state thinks that just really disappears. You don't need any more help from the state, which sucks.
It's like child support.
Yeah, basically. So that's why I chose the major, just because I was a meathead at the time. And then once I was actually in that major, I realized there are so many more options, and they're really great. And people don't know about it, and I feel like it should be talked about a lot more.
Got you. And how exactly did you help out those kids since you had the opportunities to work with them?
So we had to actually make different games and do different exercises and adjust accordingly to their disabilities that they may have. Some of them were disabled mentally, some of them were disabled with physical disabilities, and we had to. So some of them, unfortunately, some of the children, because they're physically disabled and mentally disabled, their parents don't really partake in their physical activity and exercises at home. There was a student who I worked with. I won't say his name, just HIPAA purposes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, he had autism, and he would just sit there and he wouldn't move. He would just pick his nails, rock back and forth, crisscross applesauce. That's all he did. And unfortunately, at home, his parents would allow him to sit, watch TV for 8
Hours on
14
end.
hour 8 14 16 hours a day. He would go to school, come home. He won't do any of his homework, won't do any of that. He'll just sit there, watch TV, because his parents didn't know how to help him, how to have him exercise, work out, just because he was very nonverbal, very to himself, didn't want to touch, didn't want to talk to anyone. You had to approach him very gently. And even then, sometimes the gentle approach didn't work, and you had to like pull him through the workout. The way we helped him was we just helped him stretch. We would just ask him, "Hey, let's move your arms, let's move your legs," and we found something of interest to him, such as a ball. And we would just put the ball right by his toes, straighten out his legs, and have him reach for the ball as far as he could without being too uncomfortable. Just because, although autism doesn't affect him physically, the fact that his parents allowed him to just sit there, his tendons actually began to shorten and tighten to the point where it became a physical disability. So his parents ended up allowing him to get to that state, and our job was to reverse it as much as possible, get him moving,
Wow,
get him moving
that's rocket
around
science
again.
right there. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's crazy how one mental disability led to a physical disability.
So how exactly like after like the trial and errors, how did he like benefit from that? Like was he able to go through the reversal change? Did he have any like better health benefits after the fact?
Absolutely. By the end of our sessions, which lasted 3 months, he became I wouldn't say a lot more talkative with us. He was still very nonverbal. But he started to recognize our faces. He would start to be more open to trying different exercises. And we found, okay, we know that he likes this ball. So we ended up having him stretch a lot more, moving around a lot more. At one point, he was actually throwing the ball back and forth with us, and that was a really big achievement because during the entire semester, he wouldn't even uncross his arms. And then one day, we were just playing catch with him, and it was just
Wow,
it was such a good
that sounds
feeling.
like some character development right there. Wow,
Yeah.
that's so awesome. Um, how okay, and now because I like learning certain things, and you like learning certain things too. How did going through how you say, I like to say I'll say the trials. How did something like that change you as a person? How did it affect you in life? Yeah.
Um, I feel like it changed the way I looked at the jobs, and it changed me because I wouldn't say it changed me or how I felt. More like it
Different, like it
it
changed your perspective of it.
it definitely changed my perspective, and definitely solidified that knowing that whenever I'm helping someone, that is such a rewarding feeling.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is something that I love doing. Um, I want to say it's just because who I am, but I definitely feel like part of it was also because of high school. We did a lot of volunteering work, and we got volunteer hours throughout high school. It solidified me knowing that I enjoy helping people, but it also let me know that that is not a job field that I would actually pursue. Just because I knew my patience was running short with certain
Uh-uh.
students, just because
Yeah.
I'm very, like you said, gung ho. This is what I want to do. We got to progress. We got to do this. We got to do that. Not everyone works like that. Some people need extra time, and it wasn't hard to wrap my head around, but it was hard to keep reminding myself, okay, these students aren't going to be working at the same level as some other students, so I have to change the way I teach depending on the student. And I realized I was like, yeah, I don't think I have the patience for this. So that I don't want to close that out of my life permanently, but I want to say I'm fairly confident I wouldn't be doing that as a long-term career in my future.
Okay. Okay. So, now, in regards, because I completely understand like why parents would send their kids, or why people will go to university to learn things to strengthen their chances of survival in the future, because we all need a job. Life for one isn't free. Um, so if how do you say, if you don't plan on going this route with your career, where do you see your future? Because you do plan to stay, and still go to school, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Um,
So with school, like where do you see, um where do you see this taking you in the future? Is how I want to put it.
I gotcha. I feel like this career would benefit me in terms of going down a physical therapy path, with patients who may not have a physical or mental disability, or disability of mind. Sorry. So I feel like I just wouldn't be able to work long term with a patient who has a mental disability, or a patient who has a disability of the mind. I feel like I could work with patients who have a physical disability, just because they are much more likely to work with me and communicate with me. Um, I just like an open flow of communication, and I would have a lot more patience in terms of that. So
Okay.
I'd like to work with patients who've undergone car accidents, or athletes who need readjustment. I'm not a
Yeah, I was
chiropractor,
actually
but
gonna ask, would you
things like
like
that.
ever try something like sports medicine, where you could be like a physical therapist for like, say, a football team or something like that? They make a lot of money from what I hear.
Absolutely. I would do it. Um, I feel like that's just something that everyone needs. Sports is definitely a field that I definitely consider, because as much as I love doing what I do, I also want to make a pretty penny
Yeah,
doing what I do.
yeah. Yeah, the boat, the
I'm
boat.
not gonna sit here
Likewise,
and
man.
lie.
Likewise.
I'm not gonna sit here and lie and be like, I don't care about the money. No, I care.
No,
Um, but I also care about taking care of people, making sure they're doing all right.
absolutely, yeah. I was on a call with a friend last night, because my friends knew that I was working on clothing designs, right? And he's he has very strong morals, to where, because he owns a clothing brand as well. His morals are, he doesn't want to sell clothing. He wants to like bring a message onto the people. He wants to express himself, right? Whereas me, I'm in it for the money. I told him straight up, I'm in it for the money. And he was honest with me. He goes, okay, well, I don't think that the fashion industry is for you. And I was like, I agree, you know. And so like currently I'm working on different skills to like try to increase in income. Now, one thing I can say, the podcast is actually not something I'm actually greedy about. And the reason I say that is because he also asked me why do I do the podcast. And honestly, I feel like at times I do struggle with communicating with people. Like, yes, communication is a big part of who I am, but not everyone speaks the same language. Some people, for more formal when they're speaking, more laid back when they're speaking. And to me, I feel like the podcast essentially teaches me how to be more flexible in my speaking. Because like I said, not everyone use the same language as me, and so this right here, something I'm genuinely passionate about. And like, I love hearing other people's stories, your college experience, your direction of joining the military, which thank you for serving, even though you haven't done shit yet. um, but this right here, it's like, it's the efforts of communication and understanding where people come from, because everyone comes from different walks of life. And I know, in a sense, with Americans, we don't completely understand other people and their culture, which is, one goal of mine, for instance. Um, so in regards to you going to school for this, how are you able to find success within this field of science?
I honestly sat down and I just started talking to not talking to myself. Sound crazy. I started dumbing down my schedule. I tried to not overcomplicate it. I just told myself, okay, here's what I need to get done. What's my priority number one, which is school. School is priority number one for me. It may not be that for everyone. Well, besides family. School is priority number one. So I just made my schedule, okay, I need to set time aside for the classes that I know I struggle with. Classes that I know I'm doing well in, I may not have to study as much. So I just focus my time at least an hour a day. What do I need to study? Where do I need to study? And I make those study sessions very valuable. I follow, there are different ways to actually study. The one I followed is you study 22 minutes, take 22 to 30 minutes, take a 10-minute break, go back to studying for 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, 5-minute break, then another 15, 5-minute break. And those little breaks, you should be taking time to talk to other people, get away from the work as much as possible. Don't touch it, don't look at it, nothing. Go have fun during those 5-10 minutes. After those 5-10 minutes, your brain is back to square one. A lot of people don't know that, but when you study for a long time, you start zoning out. Your long study sessions become invalid. They don't matter anymore.
Your brain is just not taking in the information whatsoever.
You're fried. Your brain is fried. But when you take those 5-minute breaks, it's like your brain resets, which is really interesting. One of the reasons why I like neurology so much. Our brain is just so unknown and interesting. So definitely learn different study habits and then pursue those study habits and actually stick through with them. That's how I found success.
I do have a question in regards to study habits. Just because I know at work, I can tell when I'm doing well when my brain, like when my body and brain is more engaged within the work. Now the issue is when they move me somewhere else to work on it. That kind of like breaks my flow. So in regards to you studying, right? You have a flow state. That's when your brain is most engaged with the activity. Whenever you get done with your break, do you have to build that state of flow back up? Like, are you able to log back in, or does it take some time for your brain to like re-engage with what you're doing?
I won't lie to you. When I first started, I definitely see my phone and it's just like, oh, I could be swiping right now. So I definitely had moments of weakness where I was like, maybe another 5 minutes won't hurt. And then the 5 minutes turn into 10, 10 and turns into 15, 20.
Yeah.
So definitely took me a little bit to lock back into my study state. But what I did to actually fight that was I turn on classical music. I did not realize how much I would enjoy classical music until I
Do you like
started
classical
studying.
music?
I
Like,
do. I
like we're talking
love classical
orchestra
music.
music, right?
Correct.
Oh my gosh, I
So
love it. I'm also into classical music.
so I refuse to listen to music with lyrics whenever I study because part of me is like, I could study with that music, but I know 5 minutes into my study session, a song is going to come on and I'm going to be singing the lyrics and not focusing on what I'm studying. Classical,
Yeah.
it's very nice to the brain, and I'm not too worried about doing anything else besides putting my pen on paper or doing my reading, which I have been doing a lot more recently. Reading, just everything.
Nah, I can't. I actually can't listen to music with lyrics in it because like I'll either focus on what I'm doing or I'm focusing on the music, and that's I was not focused on the music. And then even then, like sometimes it's like I could be listening to a great song, but my brain's like I don't want to listen to that anymore. I'll just put it on and ignore it. Um, I don't know if I can study with music. Like it's just like my focus my focus has to be somewhere, and if it's not on like my paper or whatever I'm studying, like it's gonna be on the music. So I can't study with music. I could like I could physically do things with music, but not like my brain has a hard time focusing like that.
I completely agree. The only thing I can do with music with lyrics is probably clean. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I love doing. Um, just speaking on the brain being engaged. So I thought of this recently, right? I don't know if you would ever have this saying like, um. how do you say it? Like say we're both done with our careers, we're retired, right? Do you think you would ever go into like teaching a subject of some sort?
That's actually something that I did consider pursuing in college. Like, what if I just became a teacher in a specific subject? Science. I was always good at math, but I didn't
Can't
enjoy it.
relate.
Like I was good, but I hated doing it. Science, I was decent and I loved it. So I was like, that's something I would have loads of fun teaching. I wouldn't teach anything less than high school. Like
Gotcha. Yeah. I
I would,
actually
I
I
would want to teach
so
high schoolers.
the reason I asked this, right, is because I thought about this and I picked this up recently. So um before I lived in Delaware, right? I actually came from California. I lived in California for like 6, 7 years ish. And one thing I
Mhm.
noticed, right, is when we were in class, right? Kids kids have way less patience than we do right now. Let's be real about that.
Absolutely.
So one thing that I noticed this over a weekend, right? But when some teachers are very good with their lessons, right? They know how to keep the kids engaged. They know how to keep the kids focused, right? Because an attention span for a child is really not too long, and that's one thing that keeps that's challenging as a teacher, just having an individual engaged in a lesson to where they can actually fully function and learn, right? So what I noticed teachers would do, and I picked this up like a little bit later, is say they get done listening, right? They're doing English lesson for like maybe an hour, right? And then for about
Mhm.
15 minutes, they'll just let the kid like play the game, run around in the classroom, right? And I noticed this one weekend. I was in Philly with my girlfriend, right? We would walk around, we were chatting up and talking. We were doing something physical, right? We were running our motors essentially. I got back to the hotel. I felt so good. I was like, you know what? Let me do a podcast, right? Ended up not doing a podcast, and I popped open a bottle of wine and started drinking. But
Oh
the
my
one
goodness.
thing, the one thing I noticed is, and I do this in the morning to keep myself focused. Keeping my body moving makes me feel great, and I noticed that it makes me 10 times more engaged in whatever activity I'm doing. So I was wondering if that ever works for you. Like, would you ever do a physical activity, um, in between breaks to keep your mind more engaged in something?
I love doing physical activity just like you do. Whenever I'm physical, I get a lot of work done and I try to just keep myself busy and make sure that I always have something in my hand that I'm doing, if I'm just sitting still, like my foot's tapping, which is something I
Yeah,
definitely have to
I
work
can't
on.
help that.
But
Like, even now, like I'll
I
like
definitely
play
agree
with
with
my
you.
ring, like I fidget.
I'm so
But
sorry.
yeah, that's no, you're all good. You still listening or?
Yeah,
Okay. No, because
I will have to cut it short in a little bit though. So
okay,
just
I just
giving you a
had
heads
one
up.
more question. This is an
Sure.
important question. So, what are some habits that you take part in that allow you to become successful in life?
Recently, a habit. Well, at the beginning of the podcast, we talked about one of them.
The
Definitely
journaling.
journaling.
Okay.
Journaling helped me a lot just because, like I said, I leave everything out on the paper, good, bad, everything. And if it's good, maybe one day I can look back at it and be like, hey, that's pretty good. I should start doing that. And the other habit that I've recently picked up is reading. I've been reading a lot more. I used to hate it. And because I started doing it more, I've gotten better at it and I've started to enjoy it. And then a third thing that I've been keeping myself doing is keeping myself busy. So I actually have been doing Duolingo and I'm on like a 42-day streak with
What
Spanish.
language did you
Uh,
pick up from Duolingo?
Spanish. So
Oh
right
my God.
now, I've just I would just say keep yourself busy with something productive. Like um obviously set some time aside to relax, have fun, but keeping yourself busy, journaling, reading, learning.
Yeah. But in regards to keeping yourself busy, do you ever like find yourself getting burnt out a lot more because you stay busy, or does being busy help you with burnout? I don't know if that makes sense.
No, I got you. I feel like I feel like some days I do feel a little burnt out, but that's not because of me keeping myself busy. Those things that keep me busy are just good habits to have. Um, and like I said earlier, you gotta have a little bit of time for you to relax and just
Yeah.
don't do anything. Just have a good time, sit back, and enjoy your time with other people or with yourself, and everything else I feel like will fall in line. Not that you can't get burnt out, but if you're consistent, they become a habit, and it's not even a task anymore. It's more like, oh, I look forward to writing down everything how I feel, or I look forward to reading. There's a challenge called 75 Strong,
Yeah.
where
Oh my God. That
I did that, and
were
that's
you
where I found the
successful?
passion. We won't talk about that.
Okay.
um,
And that's the reason why it's called 75 strong. It's not meant to be
yeah,
easy. That's what I love about it. Yeah. Yeah, no, like, dude, drinking water, I I honestly it's not easy, but I find it a necessity just because like I'm huge on drinking caffeine, like, and it's not unhealthy, right? But then the issue is it's like 2 cups of coffee, and then like I'm like my body's just not having it, so I gotta like throw some down in my system, you know. But yeah, I really do appreciate you joining this podcast. I was kind of nervous because things weren't working, but now we pulled through as usual. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I'm very appreciative of you joining me, your experiences, and just hearing things from your perspective because, there's things that I don't see that you can explain to me, and always like, I'm open to learning things, hearing your thoughts about something, because man, you've always been in the works. And I'm just so like, how do you say? I look to you as a person who takes initiative because there's obviously going to be times where like, you know, you don't feel like doing something, but you do it regardless. And I'm always, looking at someone who takes action. So I just want to say props to you for that. Um, thank you for joining and listening. That's huge honor. So I give you a pat on the back for that. And yeah, man, appreciate hearing your story. I'd love to have you on the podcast at another time if that works for you. Man, all the honor is myself, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, would you like to shout out your social media if you feel that? Yeah, got you. All right. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Shout out to Mai for joining for being our very first guest, actually, for sharing his story. And make sure you guys hit the follow on his page. I'm pretty sure if you guys are looking for better habits, look no further than this man right here. This man, he's built different. Like I'm telling you, like I look at him, I was like, this is the Asian Hawk right here. You can't not follow him. I mean, you can, but I'm sure you'll find like there's always benefits to this man's life that maybe you could take upon yourself. Maybe be a better person, take initiative, learn whatever skills you find necessary. This man right here is the embodiment of that. So appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys made it this far into the podcast, do follow me on Instagram. I will have more updates on podcast. MatthewVA.xo. Is that my Instagram? I think it's, what is it? MatthewVA.xo. I have the link in the description for both our social medias. You guys will find this on YouTube, definitely, and on Instagram as well. So shout out to you guys. Hopefully you guys support the podcast. We're at 1 follower right now, which is better than 0. So I'll take it. And hopefully you guys have a good day. Ryan Mai, my brother, you have a good day as well. Thank you.